Yeah, it is.
To talk about another uniter.
Yeah, speaking of
one Jimmy Dore, who's been doing a lot of uniting lately, including Matt and I.
So last week we discussed Jimmy, right? He was upset with
Cornel West.
Cornel West.
Because Cornel West doesn't know him enough anymore. It's the same thing. It's the same like media access thing.
Yeah. And he also went after a Starbucks worker because they emphasized like LGBT stuff, and he didn't think that was useful. Along with his buddy Kurt Metzger here. But before we get to their reaction, let's just play this. This is a Gen Z for Change climate activist interrupting Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House spokesperson, with this message. I think it speaks for itself.
It's really havoc on our country and across.
Excuse me for interrupting, but asking nicely hasn't worked out. 1 million young people wrote to the administration pleading not to approve a disastrous oil drilling project in Alaska, and we were ignored. So I'm here channeling the strength of my ancestors and generation. Will the administration stop approving new oil and gas projects and align with youth, science, and frontline communities from the North Slope of Alaska to Louisiana?
First of all, I appreciate your courage.
So recognition, that's what they're willing to give people, recognition that, hey, we see you and we hear you and we're going to disregard that and do what we've been fucking doing because we got this. That was, Gen Z for Change activist. I'll get her name here. Elise Joshi. She's the executive director for Gen Z for Change, interrupting the KJP event. Now, Jimmy Dore has his own take here, and let's just get right to that. I think it is this one here. And we start off, of course, with his tour dates.
We've seen climate activists before that are fake. And when I say fake, I mean...
Listen to this part closely, because we'll actually return to what he's talking about here. These climate activists that seem fake.
That are fake. And when I say fake, I mean what they really want to do is be part of the liberal establishment, get attention.
Little AOCs.
They're little AOCs, right? They know all the words. Like there was that woman we saw that got to give a speech at that Bill Gates thing.
Yeah.
And she said that they're billionaire.
Again, we'll go back into this, get the details on it.
Thing.
Yeah.
And she said that the billionaires shouldn't exist with a giggle.
Yeah, right.
And
very telegenic.
And you're
hair.
like, you're being invited.
Very telegenic hair, says Kurt Metzger. I'd just like to put a pin in that comment as well.
And you're like, you're being invited by Bill Gates here. You don't think they're using you? So anyway, and the Sunshine Group, right? So there's that. They're an environmental group called the Sunshine Group, right? And they're completely co-opted. They support the people burning fossil fuels. So the Sunshine Group is a fake organization that is run by fakes.
Now, let me interrupt this drunk motherfucker real quickly to give him some corrections before he has to issue another correction like in the video we're going to get into with the telegenic hair woman. Guess what race she is? Anyway, while other left-leaning environmental groups have formally backed Biden, Sunrise has stopped short of an official endorsement, but it is still marshaling its network of supporters to get out the vote for the Democrat. It is no secret that Joe Biden wasn't necessarily our first choice. Evan Weber, co-founder and political for Sunrise, says, now, that is irrelevant because this activist was not from Sunrise. She was from Gen Z for Change and different organization. Now, Gen Z for Change, for folks who don't know, used to be TikTokers for Biden. Now, recently, they've become a little bit upset with Joe Biden because of, here's an article. Gen Z for Change leader, this is an older one. It is this one. CNN Politics, May. It's a hard sell, Gen Z activists warned Biden over frustration about youth voters. So the problem Jimmy has is that they thought Biden was a better choice for climate action than Trump was. He's wrong about the organization. He's wrong about the endorsement of this. That was originally a Biden group, and now they're trying to move in the right direction. Let's just play a little bit more.
And I don't know what the hell they're doing, but they support the military-industrial complex. They support the opening Alaska to the Willow Project, to drilling. They're for fracking. They're for everything. And why do I say that? Because the Sunshine Group supports Joe Biden. And that's what Joe Biden's for. So that's what they're for. There were other people running that weren't for that stuff. They didn't have to endorse him.
Again, Sunrise did not endorse Joe Biden. They just thought he was the better candidate, which he just objectively is. Look, Biden sucks. He's a climate denier. There's none of this happens. Okay, let's take Jimmy at face value here. That this girl, who, for the record, I think is a brave young woman and should be applauded for what she's doing here, because I think that does take more courage than this motherfucker shows any day of his life. Let's say she's a plant. Good. That's what the administration that wants to get the ball moving on climate change would be doing, right? I personally don't think that Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre are in a hurry ahead of this election to say, hey, actually, what we've done on climate is enough for climate activists. I don't think Karine Jean-Pierre is interested in actually that. I don't think that's actually as useful as like Jimmy might think it is for them. I don't quite understand where the use is in that. But even if that was the case, that actually proves why you would want a Democrat in the White House and not a Republican.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know we have more to get into, but like, I'll just say this: it's like, I mean, this is what I find so sinister about Jimmy's whole project at this point, is that, like, look, it is very reasonable. For example, we've made these criticisms on the program to talk about issues with the Sunrise Movement, right? To talk about how, you know, there was a move to go from taking on a more aggressive approach to dealing with Biden and the Democratic Party to sort of, you know, mistaking access for influence, right? This is like a huge part of the environmental struggle under Joe Biden, right? And like all those criticisms I think are fair, right? And you can put those down. But instead of it being like a tactical mistake, or something that like, oh, an organization that's growing, or frankly, like young people who are like engaging in politics at like a high level, right? Like going through like a crash course. I mean, like take your average 17-year-old or even like a listener of this show or Jimmy's show, for God's sakes, right? And, you know, ask them what they thought when they were 16, 17, 18 about politics, right? You know, so like, you know, there's like a fair-minded criticism that's like, hey, look, some of these organizations have made mistakes. They could be more militant, you know, all of that kind of stuff and more effective. That's more than a fair criticism to make. And what Jimmy does is instead of making that criticism, it's they're fake, they're controlled opposition. These people are actually the ones in some shape or form behind the inaction. Right. Yeah. Which is just flat out wrong, which is why he infuriates me so much, because he can speak a little bit to the frustration that people feel. Hey, enough's not being done on these things. It seems like we have these big moments every once in a while, you know, like spectacles or, you know, big actions or things like that. And we don't get these kind of results. Why is that? And instead of investigating as to why, it's there are bad actors out there who are trying to trick you. And what you should instead do is come to my comedy show, support my program, and like not support Cornel West now all of a sudden. Right. You know what I mean? It's just like it's just so clear what he's trying to get at, which is why I think he's somebody who's worth spending some time on and sort of like debunking and debating, you know, some of these ideas and things that he puts forward. Because again, like he'll speak to a dissatisfaction or to the fact that things aren't going the way that they should be, right? But instead of sort of actively looking as to why, it's like, oh, there is this big conspiracy basically to trick you, you know, be it with COVID, be it with climate change, you know, all these things across the board that, you know, it's not reflective of reality. And in certain ways, as we're going to get into, I mean, you know, just straight up making up shit about people that's not true.
Yeah, and you know, like I am principally against voter shaming. I do not like to blame Green Party voters for, say, fascists getting into power. What Jimmy's doing is entirely voter shaming. It's saying all these people, because look, you want to point out the virtuous reasons people vote Green. I'd say like these young climate activists, they probably didn't vote for Biden because of imperialism or because of opening new leases. They probably voted for him because that's the only route that anything can even notionally aspirationally get done on climate. Like that's just like frankly obvious. So like, yeah, this is just a vote shaming operation here. And that's why like I'm so fucking not looking forward to the next year and a half where this motherfucker acts like, hey, don't shame us. You are the one putting empire at the voters' feet, you stupid fucker. But here's a little bit more of this.
There were other people running that weren't for that stuff. They didn't have to endorse them. They did. So they're all phonies. Now, you also know that Greta Thunberg is a psyop, right? She's never going to protest against the 800 military bases the United States has around the world, and the United States military is the #1 burner of carbon. And she never protests the wars. She never protests the blowing up of the Nord Stream pipeline.
There was no how dare you when she met Zelensky.
No how dare you when she met Zelensky.
She's like, what, a fucking young 20-year-old. Like, sorry, she's not ready to tell a leader whose country's been invaded by Russia, how dare you? Like, I mean, but there's this other clip here. So I mentioned this. This is from 10 months ago, and this is what came up when I tried to look up actually this clip. It's Jimmy issuing a correction because he played this clip of this young woman who got invited to some Gates Foundation thing and had the courage to say, despite like being a little bit nervous and laughing through it,
I think billionaires shouldn't exist. And I hope that the discomfort that I'm feeling and maybe the discomfort that I cause others to feel will mean that we both can all be transformed through this conversation.
Like his complaint with the Starbucks worker and like his complaint with Cornel West, Jimmy, he's just concerned with messaging, and everyone can do a lot better with messaging. So here, and wait till you see what happens with the PS here when it comes to Jimmy's messaging school.
Young.
Right. But it's just, I liked we like what she was saying. She cut the legs out from underneath her message because she giggled all the way through it. I understand she was nervous and she's young.
Greta Thunberg didn't giggle. Greta Thunberg got a little squishy face and like.
And listen to how fucking obsessed they are. Like AOC, Greta Thunberg, they like can't not reference these people. How old are you guys?
I would recommend a squishy face. I would recommend a Greta Thunberg. How dare
you? No, I'm not. Do I look like I'm laughing?
Be a little bit upset.
Only these pigtails here, but I ain't smiling.
But anyway, that was her thing. She called out. That was nice. She went to the Gates thing and she called out, said that billionaires shouldn't.
There's the girl with the telegenic hair, by the way, as Kurt Metzger called it.
That was good. More power to her. We look for more speeches from her.
Yeah, girls younger than her that Bill Gates didn't. They didn't talk to Bill Gates like that.
Yeah.
There's Kurt Metzger saying, yeah, we want girls younger than her who Bill Gates hasn't got to. That's an interesting comment to make about a young lady, Kurt.
Yeah, girls younger than her that Bill Gates didn't. They didn't talk to Bill Gates like that.
Yeah. Yeah, right. So she sent me an email.
Really?
Yeah. She said, dear the Jimmy Dore show. She said, I was recently made aware that you did a video about my challenge of billionaires and philanthrocapitalism at the Gates Foundation annual Goalkeepers event. At the beginning of the video and in the title, you state that I was awarded an award from Gates at this event, and that is why I was there. That is false. I was not given an award by the foundation, and I was only there as a speaker with no affiliation to the foundation. I'm concerned that stating this as a fact has led others to make some concerning assumptions or theories about me in the comments. I would really appreciate you correcting this mistake. Does she mean in the comments under my video?
She's young, dude. She probably reads them and whatever. But fair enough.
As if those matter.
Yeah. She's young. That's
what she's talking.
Yeah, sorry, my headline was false, and it's creating wrong impressions in the most immediate place you would look for that. I assume it.
And also, I'm a guy who's very concerned about messaging, and I'm presenting this thing in a very false way, and people are taking that framing and harassing or saying rude things about somebody. Huh?
Yeah.
Probably reads them and whatever, but fair enough.
As if those matter.
Yeah. She's young. That's
what she's talking. That's what she. Okay,
well, he's correct.
I corrected it. She's right.
Absolutely right.
Kind regards. And then she put in a PS. But most importantly, please let me take time to thank you and your show and express my gratitude for highlighting my speech to your 1 million+ subscribers. Of course, my speech was ignored by corporate media that is funded by billionaires and the world's largest polluters. So it is especially helpful that independent voices like yours feature an anti-establishment establishment information and messaging like my proclamation that billionaires should not exist. In fact, you were the only platform of note to even mention my speech.
What?
So again, I want to thank you and your staff for doing the work nobody else is willing to do. It is not only helpful, but essential. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me if there is ever anything I can do to help you spread your message.
Oh.
Now, that's a joke PS that I wrote myself.
I was like, wow, this chick maybe, oh my God.
And because she's young, I'm helping her learn how to put together a business email that's actually appropriate for the situation. This
Yo,
Jesus Christ, what a narcissist. I mean, that's next level shit.
Yeah, what a fucking freak. And I'll just say this. You want to talk about getting invited places and questioning why? Why the fuck are you on Rumble? Why the fuck is David Sachs on your program after Silicon Valley Bank is going bankrupt, asking for a bailout? Why do you think that's happening, Jimmy? Do you think it's because you're just the best, savviest guy to have that conversation with? Or it's because he's using you because you're a propaganda tool?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, it's just like it's some of the kind of most cynical anti-people, anti-politics stuff out there is what he's been producing on his program, because there's no direction here. The only direction seems to be like praising me, right? Which is why he added
Kiss
that
my ass.
yes thing, his little fantasy message.
Yeah, hey Jimmy, that wasn't a business email. That's a you are doing your job incorrectly email. Fix it. It's becoming a problem for me.
Oh man,
God.
Lord help us all.